Hi everybody, it's Tamara from Moogly and welcome to today's live. Today I'm going to be talking about the chainless Y stitch. Now the Y stitch is a stitch that you may or may not be familiar with in crochet. It isn't used very often, but I really like it. I've only used it a couple times so far myself, but I'd like to use it a little bit more, especially now that summer's coming, because it's a very lacy and open stitch. It really creates a lot of open space around it, just simply because of the way it's made. I've been making a few little single crochets here that I'm going to be working into as we make our Y stitches today. But I'm going to be showing you not just the Y stitch, I've already got a video on that up, but the chainless Y stitches. Chainless Y stitch, which is difficult to say, but it is my favorite way to start a row of chainless the Y stitches. So many words today. It's my favorite way to start a row of Y stitches because then you don't have to create that straight line. Now, of course, sometimes you want maybe that chain up straight line at the end of your row of white stitches or Y stitches. My goodness, that's difficult to say. But you know, it's totally optional this way. You can choose to actually start with a Y stitch. Whew, okay, there we go. Now, I just wanted to make sure and bring up our chat here so I can see that we're actually live and it looks like we're on. So I have the chat open, so feel free to ask questions if you need to see something closer or see it over again, or just have some more questions about the Y stitch. So before I demo it, where did I put it? Oh, I'm sitting on it. That's what happened. It's like, what happened to that shawl? This is the most recent project I actually used this stitch in. This is the Circe shawl. I kind of wanted to call it a circle shawl because it sort of lays in a circle, but that pattern was taken and it isn't a perfect circle. So I thought Circe, that's close. And of course, you know, anybody who's watched television lately has probably heard that name, but there we are. I want to make sure I show you the right side. So this is the Circe shawl. You can see right here, it is made with Red Heart Unforgettable, and I really love this yarn. It's so pretty. I think this was the Gossamer colorway. Today I'm going to be using the stained glass colorway to demo with. You can see they're really close, but not quite. So it's really, really pretty though. I love this yarn. I've been using it for years in a variety of projects. The Artfully Simple Infinity Scarf probably being the most famous of those. But let me see here. I'm going to go ahead. Let's actually go ahead and move to the overhead camera right now. I think that'll be a little easier to see these Y stitches in here rather than me holding them up over my face. So let's see here. This shawl is made from the top down. So I'm just going to scooch it around here so we can get over here. And right there, do you see those little Ys? That is the Y stitch. There's lots of different little details. They're kind of like puff stitches. You can have more spaces in between the upright parts of your Y if you want to. You make it narrower, wider, whatever you want to do. But this is the Y stitch itself. And at the very beginning of the row for this pattern, I wanted to make a Y stitch without having to do the chain up. Normally to start a row of Y stitches, you would chain 4 for a treble crochet, and then again, chain for how many stitches you want to have in between the upright portions of your Y, right there. So right here, I believe I just had 1 chain in between, but you could use 2 or 3, just depends on how you want to, you know, use your stitch. It's a pretty, like I say, it's kind of like the puff stitch. You can definitely play with those little details. It's more about the technique itself. But like I say, for this one, I didn't want to do the chaining. I wanted a more solid edge to work my edging into rather than a chain. So I came up with the starting Y stitch is what I'm going to demonstrate for you today. So let's go ahead and pull this one out of the way. Like I say, I'm going to be using Red Heart Unforgettable, and I'm actually trying this hook out for the first time today. I just used it to make this little row of single crochets so we'd have something to work into. This one is an L hook, 8mm, which is what I used on the shawl. It's quite a bit bigger than what's normally recommended for this yarn, but I really love the combo and the way it kind of automatically creates lace, even with really simple stitches. So like I say, this is my first time using this bamboo hook, so if I'm a little clumsy with it, that would be why. But so far, I really enjoy just taking these few stitches with it. So good morning, Liz. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys are all having a great day. Like I say, feel free to leave a comment or a question here in the chat, and I will do my best to get to them. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn, like I'm ready to come back the other direction here on my little project. And now it is time for a Y stitch. So first I'm going to make this chainless starting Y stitch simply because it's the first one. So I have to make it first, but then after that, I'm going to make a standard Y stitch as well. So you can kind of see how those stitches work. So to make the first one, I'm going to go ahead and pull that loop on my hook up to the height of a treble crochet. Haven't made any yet here on our little project to eyeball it with, but Well, that looks about right. And if we need to come back and make it taller or shorter, we can absolutely do that, just like pulling out any other stitch. So I've pulled that up to about the height of a treble. I'm going to go ahead and put my finger right on top of that loop so that it doesn't move around. Even when I move my hook, I know that portion of the loop is staying right there. Then I'm going to yarn over with the loop itself twice. And yep, I'm coming up a little short. See that? It doesn't quite get around. That's how I know I need to pull up on that loop a little bit more, just a little extra space, and then do it again. So we'll yarn over twice with the loop itself. Then I'm going to go right into that first stitch of the row, or wherever I want to put this stitch. Yarn over, pull up that loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, get that yarn out of the way there, yarn over and pull through 2, and you see I've still got that loop locked down under my finger there. I'm going to yarn over and pull through those last 2 loops right there. All right, yarn's trying to creep up on me a little bit. Let me free that up a little bit. Good morning, Auntie Sash. All right, so here we've got that chainless treble. It's a little bit messy. It could be neater. Let's do that over again. I'm going to pull that one out and just redo that chainless treble crochet. I think sometimes when I really slow down things for demos, which is important, right? I want to make sure it's slow enough so everybody can see, but it kind of causes me to lose my tension a little bit. So I'm going to go a little bit quicker this time. I'm going to hold down on that loop, yarn over with the loop itself twice, go into that first stitch, yarn over and pull up my loop, excuse me, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. I like the look of that one quite a bit better already. There we are. So you can see if you were working with a smaller hook with this yarn, it would be a lot tighter. If it was a thicker yarn with this hook, I would be a little bit tighter, but I'm working with a big hook and a thinner yarn. So thank you so much, Faith. All right, so now I've got that chainless treble made. So now it's time to turn it into a Y stitch. Now, depending on the pattern you're following, yes, I am using a larger hook that's called for the yarn because that's what I used on the shawl pattern. So I just kind of grabbed the same yarn and hook that I used for the shawl pattern. You don't have to use a larger hook to make this stitch. I was referencing more the Circe shawl. You can make this stitch with whatever yarn and hook you like, whatever gives you the fabric you like. Like I say, normally I might use a smaller hook with this yarn, but this is just what I happen to use on the shawl. So like I say, now you need to reference your pattern. If it's a chain 1 in between the upright bars of your Y, then you chain 1. It could be a chain 2. It just depends on the pattern. For this pattern, I just did a chain 1, so we'll stop there. Then what we're going to do is work a double crochet right into the center of that treble crochet we just made. Now, this first one, when it's the chainless starting one, you don't have quite the same loops to work into that you would on a regular treble crochet. It's a little bit different. So you just want to kind of pick a place about halfway down the stitch and insert your hook right on into that stitch, whatever feels good to you. Then we just yarn over and make a double crochet. There we are. This yarn really wants to come up on me today. Sorry about that. There we go. All right. So now we've got our starting Y stitch. So really it's just a chainless starting treble, but then you finish it off like a Y stitch. The trick is, since it's a little different in here, you kind of just have to pick a spot to put that double crochet, but that's how you get those 2 arms coming out of that 1 stitch at the bottom. So let's go ahead and make a regular Y stitch now. Like I say, I would have normally done that first, but of course, a starting one has to be the first one. So I'll yarn over twice, and then I'm going to go into a stitch. Now, as you can see, we only went into 1 stitch at the bottom here, but essentially we've got 3 stitches at the top. We've got, even though it's 1 Y stitch, we've got the treble, the chain, or multiple chains, and then the double. So it's the Y stitch, but it's created 3 stitches at the top. So generally when you're working the Y stitch, you're going to skip some stitches in that row below, unless of course you're using it as a method of increasing. So let's go ahead and skip 2 stitches here. Since we've got 3 stitches at the top, we'll skip 2 and go into the next one for our treble. And at this point now, it's just a standard treble crochet. Oops. There we are. Let me go ahead and pull up a little bit more yarn. And then I will chain 1. And then I want to double crochet right into the center of that treble. So again, you can just visually look at it and say, all right, where's the center point? There's about the center point. There's a nice little opening right there. Looks like a good spot to stick my hook. So let's just get a couple loops. I always like to have a couple loops on top of the hook when I make these maneuvers. And then we just make our standard double crochet. Oops. There we are. A lot of twist in this particular skein. There we go. So now you have your regular Y stitch. Now, like I said, you can use however many stitches or chains in between the arms of the Y you want. You just might need to lengthen these stitches right here, or otherwise you're going to get an arch. But again, that might be on purpose. So if you're just following a stitch pattern, obviously you should, make it however they instruct in the instructions. But if you are making up your own thing and just playing around, then absolutely you can play with all sorts of different widths and heights. The standard Y stitch is treble crochet and then chain 1 or 2 and then double crochet into the center. But again, I don't see any reason why you have to stick to just that. You can absolutely play with it. Use taller stitches, shorter stitches, increase or decrease the number of chains in between for a really unique look. There we are. Okay. So, cawing crow. Yep, that's a good excuse to be late. You had to feed the crows. That is a very good excuse. So yeah, Debbie, it does. They have some beautiful yarns there. So like I said, I could be using a smaller hook for this. It isn't necessary to use an oversized hook for this particular technique. I'm trying to see, here's a smaller hook. Let's go ahead and try a little bit with a smaller hook in case that's a little bit easier to see. I gotta grab my scissors here and just cut this one off out of the way. So this one is a USG hook. So this one's smaller than the one recommended, but we're gonna go ahead and pretend that it works and see what it looks like with this one. And I'm just gonna work into this, the bottom of our starting chain here, just for the purposes of sake of time. So I don't have to, make a whole new row of stitches here to work into. So I'm just gonna go ahead and join with a slip stitch and pretend this is the right gauge. So let's see that starting Y stitch again now with a smaller hook. I'm gonna pull it up to the height of a treble. I'm using a smaller hook, so it's not gonna be as tall. Secure that loop with my finger. Yarn over with that loop itself twice. Looks like I got just about right. It's sitting right at the top of the stitch there. Then I'm going to go right on in to whatever stitch I wanted to work into. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Oh, wanted to get caught. What's it getting caught on there? A little bit of fuzz in there. All right, there we go. So I've got my loops on my hook. I yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. It's really kind of pulling behind, but that is the motion. And pull through 2 to finish it off. There we are. So you can see now a little bit smaller. And then I would chain 1 or 2, depending on the pattern. And then I'm going to double crochet right back into the center of that treble crochet we just made. There we are. So now it's a little bit smaller, a little bit harder to see with the smaller stitches. But you can see that little Y stitch right there. So then for the next one, I would just yarn over twice, go to whatever stitch I need to work into, make my treble. I really like to follow my trebles up with my other hand as I pull off those pairs of loops. I find it makes it a lot more even in general. Chain 1, and then half double crochet right back into the center of that stitch. So you can find where it works best for you. I would just recommend as you go through that you try and, keep it consistent for that project. There we are. You can see there is another little Y stitch. There we go. So hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of how to make the chainless starting Y stitch. And yeah, like I say, you can have a lot of fun playing with that Y stitch itself in your own projects, or now you'll know if you have a project that calls for it, what that looks like. And of course, the chainless starting Y stitch is part of the Circe shawl. So let's go ahead and go back to the other camera, I think. Hopefully that, I don't see any questions, so hopefully that was a good demo of that for you guys. If you're interested in everything else that's going on Moogly, do go to the link in the description. I have all sorts of really fun links there for you for things that are going on, all the latest patterns. Of course, there's YouTube tutorials for a lot of those. So you can get those links there as well, or explore my channel. If you are looking for the right-handed tutorial for the striped hourglass basket, That one is located on your inspirations. I always get questions because I get to keep the left-handed one on my channel because I want to make sure that's available, but they only put up the right-handed one. So that's why those are in different places. So glad, Auntie Sesh, I'm glad you guys like that. Yeah, it creates a lot of open space, but it's, you know, it's relatively simple stitch. And I think it's quite beautiful. Once again, this is the Circe shawl that you'll find that in. There we are. Kind of a very pretty shawl. I believe I used 2 balls of the Red Heart Unforgettable to make this one. Don't have the pattern in front of me, and it was a little while ago. But yeah, so that was my most recent use of the Y stitch. But now that I've revisited it, it definitely might come up again. I've actually had requests on Ravelry to use it more often. So we'll see what happens now that summer is coming. It's a great time to use more lacy stitches. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. I will be, let's see, it is May 11th, 2021 right now. So tonight I will be on the Michael's Community Classroom teaching a fringe hoop craft with a mirror, actually. Trying to figure out how to get the mirror on camera without actually showing you, well, not yourselves, but the camera. So I'm still figuring that part out, but I will be on Michael's Community Classroom teaching that tonight. So if you go to the link in the description to go to today's blog post, you can get the link to register for that, or you can go straight to michaels.com, their community classroom, and sign up for classes there. They are free. There's a variety of teachers, not just me, obviously, lots of other people teaching on there too, and a whole variety of different crafts, yarn crafts, jewelry crafts, paper crafts, all sorts of fun stuff. Great for the kids this summer, so do check those out. So thank you so much, and yeah, painter's tape over the mirror. That might be the way I go, or I'm thinking about just turning it upside down. We have to do some gluing, so that will be upside down anyway, so hopefully. I was hoping it would come with one of those films, you know, those really satisfying films that you can peel off electronics and stuff sometime. I was hoping it had one of those to sort of dull it out, but oh well. It'll be a lot of fun anyway, so do check that out. Yeah, definitely. I hope you have a great day. Check out the links in the description. Trying to think of anything else I want to say before I go. Oh, one big thing. I wanted to thank you all so much. I should have put this in big letters on my forehead. Thank you all so much. We recently passed 180,000 YouTube subscribers. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Tell your friends about Moogly. We don't really advertise, so anything we can do to spread the word is really helpful. So thanks so much, you guys, and I hope you have a great day and stay safe out there and get a chance to enjoy the weather. Talk to you later.